Pleasure
come
to
up
see you.
front now.
You can speak.
You did a good job.
You can speak from
You can
anywhere in the room.
You can stand here and go through all this stuff. What he forgot to tell you was he twisted my arm and he said, you have to go up to Shumi and see the space after he saw what I was doing with these miniatures. And not only did he say you have to do that, he put me in his car and brought me up here. And I said, is there beer up there? No, that's a joke. So he physically took me in here, and I looked at it and I thought, when do you want me up here? So, but these pieces took me about 3 years, and you coughed right in the middle of what I said. She's a friend of mine. I work in layers, and generally, of course, you go from macro to micro, but generally, I put things on the canvas without really knowing where they're going. So I'll wait a little bit and see how things are. And then I'll get a dream. And the house is separate from the studio. So the next thing I know, I'm in the studio working with stuff. This was a big dream, really. This is called Wrong Turn. And if you look at it, and here's the other thing, there's a story to that, there's a story to this, there's a story to all of them. But I'm not going to tell you what they are. Because once they're on the canvas, then it's your interpretation of what they are. So, but this was a dream. This was a pretty wild dream. And the first layer I put on real fast, and I just wanted to see where it was going. So, 3 wonderful women, two women shot, took a wrong turn. So what do you think it is? I'm not going to tell you. Anyway.
Can you tell us if they're related?
If they were what?
Related.
No.
You can't tell us. Just a little something.
Gee whiz. Actually, I never thought of that. So I don't know. So if you think they're related, then they are. But I didn't really. I saw stuff in a dream, and I just put it down. And that was something I didn't really think about. Are these all related? But why is the child there?
So
If
you
they're
do
not.
a lot of ladies.
Yeah, I kind of like ladies. And you're looking at that one. A lot of times, okay, cameras, I'm still over here. And John is making a video, and he says, where are you starting? Because I can't move the stuff around. Okay, I got it. So this one was extremely fun to make. But if you've got 3 years worth of work, then really what you have to do is set it aside and go on and do another one. So I set this one aside and thought more about it and worked on it more and fleshed things out. And you kind of get into, or at least I should say, I get in. You probably do too. You get into a trance when you do glass, and this one I did too. And this one I started. This is one of my oldest ones, probably because I started with the face, and then I was thinking organs. And then I did, Stephen, you probably saw the bottom of this one time, because I had this area as orchids as part of the cloth. And I looked at that and I thought, there's more of a story there than the cloth orchids. And so then I figured that they were hanging orchids in the sky. If you get up real close, you can see this orchid. And it's really very delicate. And it's a young girl, is holding the hook that you're going to hook the orchid to. But if you know anything about orchids, Rhonda, did you know that there was a little bug in an orchid?
No, and you
That-
say if you knew anything about orchids, and I kind of consider I do, and I don't know that.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I'm gonna check your facts on that.
Yeah, you should look it up. It's there. So usually, if there's a bug, let's say like this is white, then your bug will look. It'll kind of look like a grasshopper, but it'll be white, and it'll have red things on it and all the rest of it. Well, here's one right there that's kind of just floating, and that's what she's looking at. And the story to it is whatever you want.
You didn't
That
say,
was fun to
you
do,
didn't
too.
say the name of it.
Orchid
You didn't
hangers.
say the name of the piece,
Orchid hangers.
but you didn't say that.
Orchid hangers. It's orchid hangers.
Are we friends?
Do I get you? And this one is an old one too. This is at 90. So this is probably what I'll look next year. And this was fun too because I wasn't sure where I was going with it because I did the outline of this because I kind of knew who I was, but not at 90. So I started with this, and then I started thinking about dreams and lives and that kind of thing. And pretty soon I was in a whole different world. And you can interpret it any way you want. And this one was fun too, because I started with her. And I liked her a lot. And she was always giving me the evil eye. And I thought, okay, what are you doing? And so I kind of gave her somebody giving her an evil eye in a way. But not exactly. So he's in the background. We don't know what he's doing. He's like Bill Elsie. You never know what he's doing. He's all over the place. You never know where he's going. He could be back in this valley. This is actually St. Louis Valley back here. And I actually saw the clouds bunch up like that from my balcony. And the rest of it, you'll have to think to yourself, wait a minute, the name of it is silk, and all this is silk. But what are they doing? I'll let that up to you. Figure it out. Evan, what are they doing?
Wondering what they're doing.
Yeah, that's it. And this one, this was a big one, and this came from a dream also. I call it trance because the one woman is in a trance. We don't know why. We don't know. The other one is a woman too, behind her. And we don't know if that's connected or not. And then all of a sudden you look at the background and what's that going on? Originally I had a mountain back there, but it really didn't work with the dream because we're here, we're not back there. And if you look at the trees and how everything fits in, even though you get depth, or at least I hope you do. Do you get depth when you look at it?
Absolutely.
You get a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's back there, and it doesn't take you away from what's going on here. So all the faces, they all wanted to be there. it's kind of like I did trance first, and then I did the back of the head because it wanted to be there. And then I had people coming in saying, well, part of it was a dream, but they're wondering what she's doing. And then, so I'm almost done, and then all of a sudden, that one wanted it to be in there, and that came from a dream too. But she really wanted to see what's going on.
Who are you talking about?
Girl on the left.
Behind the stand.
This one,
Yeah.
she's looking at, because she's wondering, okay, what are these folks doing? And in my dream, I didn't tell her, so she's still trying to figure it out.
Tell us about the guy
Which guy?
in the back here with the eyes that penetrate.
That one stared me down, and so I just let him do that. I have no idea what he wanted, but he was in the dream too, so. But he's connected with the main head that we see the back of it. So there's something going on there.
Maybe he put the
So
lady
essentially
in the
that's,
trance.
what's that?
Maybe he put the lady into the trance.
Could be. That's your story. So, but mostly, well, all of these came from dreams. And so I just had patience with a lot of them, and with this because it's pretty intricate with all the organs. And I like doing bigger stuff than little stuff like this. I used to do trauma well.
I have a question. I came here Tuesday night and peeked in here and I was blown away about your show and I thought you might be Asian. And I'm wondering if these are all dreams, if it's Asian, Oriental, kind of past lives, because it's...
I probably was past life.
Because you would definitely are.
Yeah. I like dreaming about stuff I know nothing about. And, you know, I was raised in this country, had a typical 1950s Aussie married life, and I'm really not interested in that because I already lived it. And so I pulled up a fantasy, and that's why. So, and I know I'm solipsistic, I like what I do and I get into it. And sometimes I lose track of time. You know that, don't you?
So, I hear you writing a book, or have written a book?
Well, yeah, I've written a number of them that are not published and probably nobody would be interested in.
Do these images translate into the book, do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. When I'm writing, stuff just pops in. I mean, and I think, where'd you come from? And I'm not sure if some of them came from the paintings, or vice versa. I definitely live in my own world. Bill Elsie knows that, since he knows that I don't go anywhere other than from the house to the studio, and he has to drag me up here, and I don't socialize very much, if at all,
Kirby,
except now, right here.
talk about the media and about how that you apply and you wait for that top coat to dry and then you're applying more.
Well, you start with thin layers and then go to thicker layers. With what I'm doing with this, I realize, you know, I'll be dead before any of it's done if I keep going like I used to go, because I studied Rembrandt's at the National Gallery in London, and there are certain steps and certain varnishes and mediums that you use, but it takes forever for it to dry. So, and it's because back in those days they used fossilized tree sap a lot, which was cocoa varnish, and it can be sticky for months. And so a lot of the time you'll have like halls. Of course, he painted for other reasons because he was in the bars all the time. So he could do a face in about 2 hours, which was great because then you could get more beer. But he was a genius in his own right too. Rembrandt did a different way of painting it, and what he did when he was done, he would scumble, which means like whatever's out in front, like the nose, he'd scumble that, which means he'd just drag a highlight across it. And if you were to look at it, like under a microscope, for example, you'd see that not all of it adhered. I mean, it just went. I liked him a lot. When I was at the National Gallery copying him, it was great to go, sit down, set up your easel, and start painting and have a crowd around you. And then you get up, walk away, and then you go into all these other rooms, like Monet. Monet had a room all by itself. I used to walk by there and I'd think, that's kind of neat, because he did some thick stuff. And then towards the end of when I was there, I was going in, that's really, really good. Because you stand back, you get closer. Rembrandt's isn't exactly like that. It's more like a portrait, and you can stand back, get up close. It's pretty much the same. But the Monet in Caravaggio was fantastic because he used like an arm coming out like this, and you go, and I'd walk by and I'd say, yeah, more religious stuff, and then I'd walk by. Wait a minute. Right in there's just a piece of red paint like that just belongs there. So you have all that as a background, and then you start doing your own stuff. And you build on all the stuff that you've learned. Of course, I'm not that smart anyway, so I kind of think that I built on that. But in a way, all of that comes together with all these pieces, even though you don't see it. Because, and here's another thing. So when I was studying art in the 60s, the whole thing about that was do your own thing and we'll critique it. Oh, how sweet. And I really wasn't interested in that. But abstract expressionism, I didn't like it, but I learned from it. And then you look at these paintings and you realize with some of that background, which is totally different from what I do, but you realize that your eyes aren't going off the canvas. And you think, why is that? Well, they're just very subtle things that you have learned that you incorporate in your painting. Now, why am I discussing this? I'm supposed to be discussing paintings. Who brought that up? Anyway, back to the paintings. They're fun. And that's why I do them. But they do take a long time. Any more questions? I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm a recluse.
What's going on with the Someone's Lost in the Silk? Is that you?
In the back or here or?
Right here on the top. You see a foot. You see a hand.
Yeah, that's part of this person right here that you don't see the head. The head is bent over, so you don't see the face. So this belongs to her, and so does this and this.
It's the most action in the whole painting.
Yeah.
You can't even.
True.
Kirby, did
And-
you always paint this way?
No, actually, I never did. I painted, when I lived in Alaska, mostly I did Trompe l'Oeil, which is real small. The Anchorage Museum, all of them, the stuff that I had there was real small. And in the gallery also that I had. But then I didn't have any room up there. And now I have room. I've never painted as large as this, although close to it, but in terms of how you paint it, I used varnishes, and actually I'll tell you another little thing. When I lived in Texas, I had live models, and unfortunately, I was in the Air Force at the same time, but I lived off base. And so I had live models who had tremendous backs. And you're thinking, backs. So I had large pieces, and I'd have her pose nude with her back. And I'd have a bottle of wine here. And with, I did that a la prima, which means all at once. So I used varnishes with umbers, mostly umbers, a few reds. And I would just start to paint. And about 5 in the morning, the bottle of wine would be gone and the painting would be done. And she would have gone a long time ago, disgusted that she had to stand there that long. But so that was a style I did. I did a bunch of shows in San Antonio, and I probably did, I don't even remember how many I did, maybe about 30 or 40 of those. So, and that was entirely different than this.
And they were small also.
No, they were probably 4 feet by 6 feet. Yeah. The Trompe l'Oeil were in Alaska, because I just didn't have any room. Plus I was in a cabin at one point also, which was nice. You again.
Yeah. So when I met you, you had been a jeweler.
Yeah, I designed jewelry for 30 years.
Were you painting at that same time?
Yeah, in Boulder, that's another story, isn't it? I had bunches of galleries, and I designed jewelry. When I was in New York, I freelanced and did whole lines of jewelry that department stores would then put their stamps on it, and it would be their designs. And I did a few things for Tiffany's, but mostly private stuff. And then when in Boulder, I had a gallery in Boulder that I closed down when I was building the house.
Yeah.
But I had a studio. Do you want to hear the story? Okay. Shaking your head, yes. So I had a partner in the business, and so I could be off on Sundays and Mondays. So one of my clients owned a building out at Colorado 7 and I-25. I don't know if you're familiar with that area out in Boulder, but that particular area, it was King Supers had the area zoned for small farms. It was chicken farms. So they had, I think, 40 acres, all in this one section. So this building had a processing plant, and the refrigerator was 1,200 square feet. Well, they stopped doing that out there. My client bought the building, and we just happened to be talking one day, and he says, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I said, refrigerator 1,200 square feet, that's pretty big for it. Yeah, and I don't know what to do with it. I said, can I take a look at it? And he said, yeah. So, long story short, that was my painting studio. Yeah, I knocked out windows and remodeled it, and was doing all kinds of experiments with the oils. At one point, I was thinking that maybe I might want paintings to last long for some reason. And so I was experimenting to see what oils would crack and what would kind of separate and all that. So I got that under control. So, what was that question?
Jewelry, paint?
Yeah, so the jewelry is, it's just an offshoot because you've got a design in your brain and you can dream it. And then it comes down, it goes into your fingers, and you just, and usually I just carve the wax, unless I'm commissioned to do a line for a jewelry company. If I did, then I would do just sketches of it, and that you use gouache for it, because gouache it's fast drying and it's kind of chunky, but it's good for designing a ring with diamonds and that kind of thing. So, but that wasn't really my passion. That was kind of like, okay, I'm doing that, and evidently I must have been pretty good, because I figured at one point I was thinking, how many wedding rings did I make? And Rhonda, did you ever think about that? How many I made?
You know, I really would have a hard time getting a number of that.
Yeah, I figure 15,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but really, what I wanted to do was paint. But the designing the jewelry gave me money to paint, because most of the painting I didn't sell. I was just experimenting and doing stuff. I'll finish up with that story about the chicken farm refrigerator. So the building was sold again, and I'm building the studio down here at the same time, and I'm thinking, I gotta be out of here in 30 days, because it was sold. And I had, out there, I had two 10-footers. And so, and with the refrigerating room, it had a dock. So with a big freezer dock that, you know, it pulls out here, it clicks, you know that sound. So I went in, gathered my paintings and put them out on the dock. Colorado 7 and I-25. That's an area that's real flat, and it gets real hot, and what happens? Tornadoes.
Oh.
I'm on the deck, got my big old U-Haul truck packed, partly packed with small stuff. I'm happy because I've got a place to go. And I've got my two 10-footers over here, and I had about a half a dozen 6-footers. Uh-oh. And it was so fast. Those guys just went right up in the air. And I found them. But it was kind of like kindling wood with something over it, like a ghost. That's my sad story. So anyway, that's how I got here. And Bill twisted my arm. Yeah, I think you had a rope around me when you came. Do you have any more questions?
I'm absolutely speechless. I love your work.
I like that kind of question. Thank you. Bill Elsie, do you have a rope? Are you trying to tie me up?
This may be the last question, but if somebody wanted to do this kind of work from their dreams, does it matter like if they smoke something before?
I might be the only person that you know who has never done drugs, never smoked, never marijuana, nothing, nothing. I've always thought of my brain, number one, as being precious. I know that's debatable for me, but, and part of my background also is psychology, because I worked in psychiatry when I was in the Air Force too, but I have a degree in psychology and art. And I didn't want to mess with that. It was enough for me because a lot of times I would pre-program my brain to have a certain dream when I went to sleep. And when I was in college, what I would do is I would pre-program it. It would go somewhere. The next night, I would pick up where it left off. And I figured, because everybody was taking LSD and having a wonderful trip, I'm thinking, I'm having a wonderful trip without any of that. Yeah. And so, no, never smoked it. Never smoked. Never took any drugs. Never.
A little wine once in a while.
Is what?
A little wine.
A little wine, that was a little different. It was organic. But yeah, I did have a little bit of that. But it wasn't very often, because when I was doing it, describing how I painted and got it finished real fast, I was actually in the Air Force at the time, so you didn't go on a binge. So, but I must say that with these things, I really, really, really love doing them. It's something that I wish everybody could do it.
Kirby, given that,
What's that?
Given that approach to things, and these all look similar, is that how you did these? Did you just pick up the dream and go for
Well,
something?
actually, what I thought of them as a story, even though they're all separate. And part of that story is if you see that the eyes are all pretty much the same, a little different in all of them. And that was kind of the theme of women, girls, too, babies, in that genre. I don't really have any Swedish people in there. So, and plus, when I was doing it, I loved kimonos. And so I did a little research on them, looking at them, and seeing not only the kimono, but normally you don't see somebody standing around like this in a kimono. They normally have a certain look, a certain way of sitting in a kimono. And so I did a little research on that, and that was fun too.
I noticed that you have designed your art, like in the West it's often designed.
No, I haven't.
Really? Is it in a bag, some information, or is that just like anonymous?
Yeah, I haven't done that.
Are you sure?
I might.
That's fine with me, but
No, I have, I still have some thoughts on them, even though they're done, but I still have some things in my brain. And I probably would sign them in the back, but all parts of the canvas are filled up from the way I want them to be filled up, without my name and date on them. So, but some of them I still have thoughts about, so it might just alter it a little bit.
So Kirby, is this series continuing? Are you still working on these or a new series?
This is kind of finished, but last night I had a different dream. And I might go off with these going into the next series. Because I do work in series. No matter what I do, I'll do, like even when I was doing backs, you might think, well, that'd be pretty easy because all you've got is a few nuances of muscle back there. It's a lot more involved in that because it's a feminine look, and you can, what I was doing, you could almost think right into them. And so I would do, I did a series of probably 15 of those. Different, and people thought that they were landscapes.
So your dream, I mean, it might be a transitional painting to go to the next?
Yeah, it might, or instead of being upright like this, it might go sideways, because I was thinking a lot of times my brain goes sideways. So that's what I was thinking last night. Now that might change tonight.
When you change a series, will you also change your, of course you'll change your imagery, will you change your color scheme?
Probably. I probably will. Because I'm already thinking about that. It won't be so much different from this, but if you had seen them all together, which you're doing now, and they might not all be together again. I mean, this might be it, because they're not for sale. And so I might have, I'm thinking about having them kind of just squeak into sideways, and having a different part of the colors, but a different emphasis going sideways. And then that might actually go into more yellows and oranges.
Kirby, if they're not for sale, what's your ultimate goal with these?
What's that?
If they're not for sale, what's your ultimate goal?
I don't have one. No, it's almost, this sounds weird, but it's almost as if I don't care. I've got in my house, my walls are higher than this, and I actually painted these to be up higher because in the living room, my walls are I think 18 feet tall, and I built it so that I could have it way out there. You've been in my house. So I don't. If I ever sold them, I think I would like to sell all of them at once and not have them separated, because it's also a slice of time, and it's a slice of time in time from the point of view of where I was and what I was thinking during that period of time. And when you would come down and visit and disrupt the whole thing that I was doing, then I'd have to get back into my time again. That's what's great about being a hermit. You know, you don't have a lot of people coming in. Unless they call up and say, I'm in town. And I say, no, I'm busy. But these were really a lot of fun to do. And this one was a lot of fun too, because I started out, I was thinking about orchids. Now you got me going, don't you? I mean, getting started to talk. She was dominant here, but she's a wild kid, really. And for her, I just had her looking out before I changed her eyes so that she's actually looking at this. And that was before I realized that these little guys existed. But I was having ideas just about the orchids. And then I had the orchids kind of falling out from here, and then they would need to be hooked so that these guys could hang them up in the sky. So, am I rambling?
Did you say about masks? You know, you mentioned that the Japanese influence and, you know, the geishas, or maybe if they wear the official attire, they are a bit so more formal, and sometimes in the theaters they have the mask. And sometimes I have the feeling there I see a bit that white mask or something.
Yeah, I thought about that. And you're right with the white mask. They don't have a white mask, but they have a white complexion in these. And part of that comes from that, because of the mask.
They want to be white.
But I didn't want just to have a mask on, because if you did that, you couldn't get the nuances of the lips and the cheeks and the eyes and the eyebrows and all that. But I might do that next too. Any more questions? I can't tap dance on this. Bill, do I have to talk more? Nobody's listening anymore. They're all bored.
You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. There's wine back here, there's cheese and crackers, and you can go one-on-one with Kirby. Didn't tell you that part, huh?
No. So, anyway, thanks for coming.
Thank you.